She earned her Bachelor of Arts degree from Wellesley College and a law degree from Boston University School of Law. She's the director of the Center for Education at Washington Policy Center and author of Washington Policy Center's Education Reform Plan, 8 Practical Ways to Improve Public Schools, and also Learning Online, an assessment of online public education programs. She retired from civil litigation practice to raise 2 children. Liv is passionate about improving Washington's public education system. Help us welcome Liv Finne, Esquire, Uncovering the Mystery, Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Justice.
My name is Liv Finne. I'm the Director for Education at Washington Policy Center, which is a think tank with offices in Seattle, the Tri-Cities, and Spokane, and we cover a bunch of different policy topics, including transportation, the environment, government and tax reform, healthcare, and education, amongst other topics. So I'm going to be a lot drier, I'm afraid, than Rebecca, but I figured we'll just make the best of it. I have been working at the Washington Policy Center for 14 years now and following education policy at the state level, which means that I look to see what's happening at the state legislature, what laws are being proposed. I testify in support or opposition to bills that come before our elected lawmakers. I write editorials. I have a blog, which I comment on things that are happening in the public education arena, like this, what the state superintendent is doing, that sort of thing. So our organization is a free market think tank, so we believe in the power of the people to direct their, that we do not think the government is the solution. We think that it is the individual energies and intelligence and resources of the people that will set the course and solve the problems that we face. So in education, I was asked by Suzanne to speak about diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice, okay? This is the topic that I'm supposed to talk about. And in the public schools of Washington State. When this first came to my attention, you know, here I am sitting behind a desk reading everything I can. I noticed that that there was a lot of misinformation being put out there. And with my background as a trial lawyer, I thought, well, maybe here today, the best thing I can do for you all is to provide you the evidence of how they're putting critical race theory in the schools. So that would be useful to you. So, and the person who actually brought it to my attention in the first place was Christopher Rufo, who many of you may have heard of, an incredibly brave, smart, brilliant person who has informed the nation about what's going on in the schools and in our public institutions. And so I first saw an article that he wrote about the training that was going on in the summer of 2020. You remember, the summer of 2020, we're in the middle of COVID, George Floyd had just been killed, and there was a training of the Seattle teachers. Christopher Rufo wrote an article about the professional training that was being given to teachers on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And at the bottom of his article, he posted this, I think it was a 72-page PowerPoint. And so what I have done here to start with, and is somebody switching this, or can I do it from here? The PowerPoints, how do I move these? There, okay, so here we go. Here's my, so I'm gonna go quickly through this. You don't read this, it just helps me talk to you. You don't have to read it. But what happened was in the summer, the Seattle Public Schools started indoctrinating their teachers in this critical race theory, and they're using all these different terms. And this is important because they're using code words for critical race theory, making it sound like an innocuous, good thing, like equity. Equity, doesn't that sound great? And all the different code words, social and emotional learning, race-based, white supremacist society, institutional racism, systemic oppression, bankrupting your white privilege, racial and gender identities, intersectionalities and spirit murder of black children. That was it. Those are words, and I'm going to show you from the PowerPoint that were used in the training of the teachers in the Seattle Public Schools. That happened in the summer. Then the next year, I see this bill introduced in the state legislature, Senate Bill 5044, by Senator Emily Randall. And that, I testified, I think 8 times against this bill, because with my background as a lawyer, I saw right away it violates the civil rights of our students and our teachers. I mean, it's an outrage. Our civil rights are being trampled on. Our First Amendment rights are being trampled on. Nevertheless, the state legislature, heavily controlled by Democrats, passed this. They ignored. They passed a law that they were told was illegal and unconstitutional. So that tells you something. So then the next thing that happened is that equity statements, after the law was passed, making this ideology, this hateful ideology, official state policy, you saw in the summer of 2021, equity statements flower, like evil flowers on all these websites, on Seattle, on school district websites. And then and then the next thing that is happening is that through the guise of ethnic studies, the state Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction had published an ethnic studies framework which reframes all the subjects with these domains of critical race theory. And that is how they're going to put it in our books. Okay, so I thought that would be useful for you all to know. And so let's go on to the next slide. Here, I'm going to now go quickly through this PowerPoint that I mentioned to you, the Seattle Public Schools. It has a date on it. It's called Dismantling the Racial Contract Through Healing Informed Practices. Isn't that manipulative and horrible? If you can read, if you can see the page, at the very top it says Social and Emotional Learning PowerPoint. So these are the words, the trigger words. The next page gives you, next page please. I'm going to go pretty quickly. Gives you the date. This was August of 2020. So this happened in August of 2020. Seattle Public School teachers were being fed this stuff. Next page. Then these are the words, and I cannot see it that well. So I'm going to, I wish I could see this that better from here, but I know I put that slide in because it's talking about systemic racism. Next page. Valuing students' intersectional identities. This is part of critical race theory, that you have now been reduced, your identity now is no more than your race and your sex. All right, and you've heard all this. I mean, what a belittling, destructive idea that we as human beings with so much rich background to all of our identities as individuals should be reduced to nothing more than race and our sex. And of course, it's all part of the power oppression matrix. So next slide. They talk about core values. It's taught like they teach the teachers, we care about the children, and then they name all these empathetic values, and then they twist it into, in order for you to care about children, you have to adopt this identity intersectionality matrix, which is absurd. Next slide. And then they tell the white teachers, you are privileged because you're white. Okay, so let me just, you all know this already, but the whole basis of critical race theory teaches that if you're white, you are, first, that we live in a systemically racist society. False. That is false. Let's just start with that. Our laws prohibit racial discrimination on the basis of race. So when people tell you we live in a systemic racist society and you ask for the evidence, you know what they do? They give you this evidence of disparities in outcomes based on race. And that's a distortion of evidence. There's many reasons for the differences between white and Asian children and black and brown children doing poorly in the schools that is not due to our systemically racist society. It is a falsehood, it is a lie, and that's what you start with. That is not true. You just challenge them. You say, show me where on the books of the state of the laws of Washington it says that you can discriminate on the basis of race. You just show me, and they can't show this to you. So that's the first premise. Then it says that if you're white, and if you're Jewish, you're white adjacent. If you're Asian, you're white adjacent. What a What junk is that? So, and that means you're an oppressor, and you're oppressing everyone who is not white or white adjacent, meaning brown and black children. And I actually think we can all laugh, but if you're a black and brown children's parent, that's the worst thing you could ever tell a child. You are a victim, you can't do well in school, you must just give up, forget about studying hard and getting ahead. In our society, I mean, we just named another black, Supreme Court justice to the Supreme Court, US Supreme Court. Yeah. We have 2 black justices. We've had a black president. We have black leaders in our society. For them to claim that we have racism is wrong. We have a great society that allows people from all backgrounds rise if they work hard and apply themselves, and we can get ahead in this society if we want to. I didn't mean to, I kind of got off base, but it just makes me so mad. So next, building community. Then they start, now I cannot see that word, but I think it says spirit murder, okay? They told the white teachers in Seattle that they were murdering the spirit of black children based on some junk academic piece written by a woman named Bethany Love. I mean, this is just nonsense. And the problem is that there's a whole body of this nonsense in the academic institutions, unfortunately. So they turn and they point to Ibram Kendi, and they point to, what's her name, Robin DiAngelo, and there's a whole bunch of people who have written this construct, which is false. So they're teaching building community, and then they're creating this division deliberately. They say find your allies. What? You're going to go to school to find allies? That implicit to that is that there are enemies. You need allies to fight your enemies. Identify who your enemies are. Look at the children around you through the lens of race. That's what they're teaching. This is what we came to America to get away from. I mean. Anyway, so here we're going backwards. It's so bad. So next slide. There's just more other options to think about your identity, and there was more evidence there of the terrible ideas they're teaching the teachers. Next slide. Here we are. This is to know who you are is at the heart of social and emotional learning. You see how manipulative it is? If you're a teacher, you're brainwashed in this. In order to care about your children, you have to think this way. That's the way. It's terribly manipulative. Next slide. All of us have multiple identities. It's just more of the same nonsense. Next slide. And then this intersectionality. So I just wanted to mention these terms so that you're aware. When you hear those terms, okay, that should go off in your mind. This is critical race theory in disguise. Next slide. Okay, and here is a quote from Christopher Rufo, which is the article I mentioned. He wrote this article, at the bottom of which is this 72-page PowerPoint that they use in the Seattle Public Schools, and he described this accurately. I couldn't believe it when I saw this, and I really didn't believe it until I read the PowerPoint. And when you read the PowerPoint, you see it's there. Okay, next slide. Okay, then, now we're moving on to the law that was passed, Senate Bill 5044, which after I testified a number of times saying this is illegal, unconstitutional, you shouldn't pass it, and they passed it. Then I was writing blog posts and editorials and such saying this is terrible, we shouldn't do this. We actually paid for an ad in the 9 major newspapers in Washington State asking Governor Inslee to veto the bill on the basis of its violation of our civil rights and constitutional rights. And of course he ignored me, and ignored us. And then the newspapers proceeded to repeat the lie that it's not in the schools. So that's why I bring to you the actual, and that the bill is only about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Okay, what are you talking about, Liv? You're not speaking the truth. Well, all you have to do is look at the title of the bill. Okay, and I'm gonna have to go over there to read it. Somebody there close to me. It says to eliminate institutional racism in our society. So there's the proof. The bill itself says it's CRT. So this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with people who don't want to see the evidence. And But forearmed, with knowledge, you are forewarned is forearmed, right? You need to know the terms, and the minute you see the terms, all you do is call it out. It's not hard. You can just say, show me the proof. I've done this many times on Facebook. Show me the evidence, and then people think that opinions are evidence, okay? And they're not. Facts versus opinion. Remember what you learned, that don't let people, all you have to do is question the premise, say this is not right, this is wrong, you're telling children, you're harming children, you're dividing our society, you're making them look through the lens of race, this is wrong, and you know it's wrong, and stop doing it. Next slide. Here, I just took a couple slides from the actual language of the bill. One of the Senate Bill 5044 actually defines equity as intending to deliver equal outcomes. What does that tell you? That's not diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's about eliminating programs for gifted kids. It's about bringing down the level, reducing academic learning standards so everyone's at the bottom. It's really happening. I'm watching it happen in real time right now in Washington State. Next slide. There's just more underlines from that bill. There's plenty of evidence in that bill that it's critical race theory. Next slide. And that's the end of that. Next section. Next slide, please. Okay. then, because the bill itself requires every school employee to be trained and every school board director to be trained in critical race theory, this diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice, and the bill actually assigned to the organization called WASDA, Washington State School Directors Association, the task of coming up for the training materials for the school board directors across Washington State. I then got a hold of the actual training materials, and here was this is just a logo that from WASDA talking about equity in a divided community and Senate Bill 5044 and how they're going to train school board directors in this ideology. And it is another shocking set of PowerPoints teaching critical race theory. I put up a blog, put it out there, and let everybody know. But that was how they got the school board directors in Washington State thinking this way. I heard stories back. Some people just got up and walked out of the room. They couldn't take it. And that's the correct reaction to being told that you are a racist. Seriously, enough already. Stop doing this to us, Just stand up and walk out of the room. You do not need to take it. And work on the local newspapers. They have been totally blown. Their minds have been corrupted. They need to be worked on. So if you have any friends, send them to my blog because I put up the evidence. And, how is it that the journalists today are only picking half of the story consistently? So that was just a slide from that. Next slide. I put up the content. You can have that. I can give you the PowerPoint if you want. These are the examples from that training, from the WASDA training of the school board directors. It's all full of critical race theory. Anyway, next slide. And then that summer, there was all kinds of talk on Twitter. Oh, it's not, Senate Bill 5044 is not critical race theory, and it's not in the schools, blah, blah, blah. So I decided, okay, I'm just gonna go to all the school district websites of the largest districts in Washington State, and I went to their equity pages, and I just put up one of those Twitter thread things to all the different school districts, and there was a page and it's astonishing. And so it's there, more evidence that it's in the schools, and you all know this, I'm speaking to friends, but if you need to persuade someone, maybe you can use my PowerPoint to help you. Next slide. Yeah. And then, okay, now the other thing it just happened so fast. I mean, it was clearly simmering, and then when the George Floyd murder happened and COVID and all the rest of it, it just took off just like a fire. And at the state superintendent of public instruction's office, they were told by the legislature to write up a new training materials for a a program in ethnic studies, and that sounds very, but good. We all want to know about different ethnicities. We want to learn about all the wonderful, marvelous peoples that are in the world. So that was a fine law that was passed by the legislature, but then how it was interpreted by OSPI, by the Ethnic Studies Advisory Committee, was taken over by radicals in the university, and they put in critical race theory into this ethnic studies framework, which means that it's just is so boring. It's like the learning standards. They have written, okay, so they've taken what they create, the learning standards that are written down for all the different subjects direct teachers and influence the materials that our kids are taught in the schools. And so these learning standards are important. And now they've been overlaid, reframed with critical race theory through this ethnic studies framework. And so I reported on this. I know, it's just insidious. They figured out all the ways to infiltrate the curriculum. And so what I expect to see now is to see books that are rewritten now under this framing. And what they do is, now next slide, I can show you, here we have ethnic studies framework. They reorganize the learning standards into these domains of identity, power and oppression, history of resistance and liberation, reflection and action. So the children are being taught, as part of the reflection and action, that they have to become activist warriors. What can they do to make this happen in the streets? So I read about Portland and what goes on, and I wonder if their teachers haven't been telling them they have to go out into the streets and burn things up as their social justice move. I wonder. I don't know that, so I'm not saying that that's the case, but I wonder, is that where these kids are getting these ideas? I don't know. But certainly they're now going to be taught that in order to level, all the injustices in the world, you need to go out and take action. That is not what school is supposed to do. We're supposed to be teaching them the basics of reading, writing, and arithmetic. So that really worries me, what that means for the future, that action section. So next slide. Here now you see the proof that the ethnic studies framework overlaid on an actual learning standard for US history is changing what they're teaching the kids. I circled this first section because there it says, and I can't read it from here, but I can paraphrase, I know what's in it. It says, this country was founded to promote the institution of slavery. That's what it says. That is the US history standard for Seattle Public Schools. Say it louder. The US history learning standard for Seattle Public Schools states a lie. It states the lie that the United States was founded to promote the institution of slavery. And that is all part of critical race theory. And so talk about destroying a country from within. It teaches us to hate our country instead of love our country.
Is this on your website?
This is on the OSPI website post. It's even more outrageous that it's on the OSPI website. That's where I found it. These are all official state sources, right? These are all, I'm not making this up.
But this PowerPoint we have access.
Yes, you can have that. I'll send you. I can send you a copy of my PowerPoint. I'm happy to do that.
We all want it.
Well, okay, thank you. Thank you, guys. I mean, really, I don't know what to say. Next slide is the one on math, okay? I think that's math. And they say that math is used to oppress black children. Now, how is that going to inspire a black child to learn math? Right? It's so destructive and so bad. So that's in Seattle. Now, Seattle, of course, is a really radical place. I don't think this is happening in every district in Washington State to be fair, but there are a lot of radicals in these districts, and so you watch what Governor DeSantis is doing. He is fighting this. He is He is out there, but you have to be careful. Even making it illegal is subverted by the radicals in the schools, unfortunately. There are 3 states, there are a number of states that have made teaching critical race theory illegal, and I saw an undercover video taken by, I can't remember the name of the guy, but they were talking, it was illegal to teach critical race theory, and he captured teachers saying, it doesn't matter, we're still teaching it, even though we're not, okay? So they have been so brainwashed. It's so bad. They're going to do it. They go to these schools of education where I've been to the UW School of Education. I was shocked when I went there several years ago. This is 6 or 7 years ago, and I saw posters, social justice. I didn't see how to teach reading, how to teach phonics. It's social justice in these schools of education. So we have a problem with the young teachers coming out of these schools. Next slide. And then this, but you guys already know all this. This kind of really upset me this past week because I made myself, in preparation for this talk, to go again to the Seattle Public School website. If you type in the word gender, they have a page, gender materials, K through 5, gender books, lessons, and videos. And there they have posted videos being given by a man reading these books, these outrageous books that are outside. Some of them are outside and the one that really upset me, I forced myself to listen to the guy, and I couldn't finish the whole video because I got so upset. I Am Jazz. He said, you all know this book. So what really was upsetting was that he was saying that parents who have a little boy who wants to wear a dress to school are bad. Your parent, if your parent is saying that to you, you're something wrong with your parent. And he was saying it in these couched words. The parents are not accepting of this new thinking and blah, blah, blah. Oh, it's so bad. And I just can't believe it's posted there for all to see. Seattle Public Schools. Next page. And then, this is the other outrage. At Washington Policy Center, we're supposed to be thinking about, our mission is not to get involved in social matters like this. We're supposed to be talking about policies that improve lives for Washingtonians, But you can't avoid getting involved in some of these culture wars when it's so to the heart of education. This, in my research, I found this. The OSPI has a directive there that tells counselors in the schools that if a child presents to them, wants to change their gender, they may not tell the parents. And there it is. How can we have that? How can we have that? They are telling teachers not to tell parents that something is up with their child. And I have had teachers call me and say, what do I do? It is a violation of your First Amendment right to lie, to be forced to lie by your job, okay? Teachers should be suing. I want to make sure I mention that I know 2 pro bono law firms that are looking for plaintiffs. Anyone who's brave enough to take on their school district, please contact me. I can put you into contact with those lawyers. This is a winning, we will win in the courts. This is something that is, every law student has learned this. This is part of the DNA of lawyers. So this is a winning battle in the courts. And next slide, I think I'm almost done. I don't know what happened there. That got shrunk. Okay, so now on to the positive. Okay, during COVID, 18 states expanded their school choice policies, which are policies that give money directly to families so they can form their own schools or put their kids in private schools. That is the way forward. We can protect those programs from being overrun by the government regulations. I'm not concerned about that. Now in the nation, there are 32 states that offer families direct aid so they can put their kids in private schools, and Puerto Rico and the District of Columbia. So here out in the liberal West, we're behind the curve. We need to have this, and there's nearly 1 million children in these programs. All right, this is not radical. This has been passed by legislatures, and parents are getting money so they can put their kids in a private school. Next slide. Yes, I am so impressed. I know, I've seen this woman on Facebook. She's awesome. Well done. That is so, so good. And the messaging has to be, you have to put dollars in the title of the message. It's very important because too many words in all these discussions. You know, I always say, give parents $10,000 in the title of my blogs and in my subject matter lines. Talk about the money. That's what attracts people. And it's when you give people money, then they have real power, and then all of a sudden you'll see them get rid of CRT. If enough people start leaving the schools, they will get rid of CRT, and it'll be the first thing they do. And I do want to mention that 41,000 families have already pulled their kids out of public schools in Washington State. You all know that. Yeah. All right. Now, and that's a poll. You can hardly see it. The support for school choice has increased by 10%, from 66% to 76%. There's strong public support for school choice, Democrats and Republicans alike. So don't let them say, oh, we can't do it. We can't. Next. I'm sorry?
How do we access?
Well, if you just go to Washington Policy Center and then you filter for education, you'll see all my blogs. Okay, and then here we have one of the heroes of school choice right here in our room with us, Representative Jim Walsh, who introduced House Bill 1633, and he's done a marvelous job getting it out there and discussing it. So excellent. He would say that we should give parents $10,000 per child so they can put their kids in a private school or start their own school. And he says he's going to introduce, he'll talk some more about it next session, but he is not alone. There are a lot of Republicans that are talking about this now in Washington State. There were 4 different bills introduced last year, and each one of those bills has its own strength. So it's like one of the bills said, give parents school choice so they don't have to pick the cheapest school available. Don't you like that? So they don't have to go to the public school that doesn't cost them any money. Next, and I'm finished. Here, this is my, okay, and then, so bottom line, there's the evidence, the critical race theory is in the schools, and I am so honored to be part of this group and to help you fight the battle ahead, because believe me, we do have to fight it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Give it up for Liv Finne. We know after this great presentation, you will want to join Parents' Rights in Education. It just makes sense. Activism can be enjoyable when you are surrounded by like-minded people. And together, we win. Go to the website and click on the Join Us tab. Fill out the form there to receive important news alerts and information. We have state chapters in more than 10 states, and we have followers all over the country, and we'll do our best to connect you with like-minded people in your area. Like us on Facebook and join a state and local Facebook group. We are not new to this arena of fighting for parents' rights. You will want to watch the PRIE history video on our homepage. Don't have time to read? Also featured on the homepage is the podcast, Parents' Rights Now. These are not meant to be entertaining, but provide valuable information, catching you up on the issues quickly. Would you like to contribute to our cause? We are a tax-deductible 501c3 organization. Click on the donate button on our website. We need your help, and we can't do it alone. Consider joining the 12 by 12 Club. Your gift of just $12 or more will help restore parents' rights across the country. Together, we are winning.